today we'll be featuring how to deploy one of our more recent solutions. It's the custom organization-wide email signature solution. So typically, as far as setting an organizational signature is concerned, you typically have to set that within your Google Workspace, right? And normally this will be done individually for all the users, unless in scenarios whereby you're using a third-party application. But the challenge with the third-party apps is that they're usually paid per user, and at times they're actually paid per user given event whereby the signature is changed. So every time an individual user changes their signature, you bill for that. So that's how some of them work. So how our solution works is that it enables an admin to simply design the signature in a simple Google Doc, and then on executing the attached script, the signature is set up for the entire organization in one go. So this is how typically a user would set up their signature. So I'll come in here and proceed to actually delete all the versions of my signature, just for demo's sake. But in a scenario whereby you're actually using the solution, there's really no need to do so. So how does this help, aside from an admin being able to set this up for you? One of the things maybe your marketing people will like is that it strengthens your organization brand. This is because the style of the signature and the organization's colors, etc., are streamlined across all of the users' mailboxes within your organization. So this also helps promote your brand awareness, whereby the moment external recipients receive your emails, they are automatically able to tell the company from whom the email is from. Again, it also increases the accessibility of your staff, in that your staff's personal information, maybe their name, their designation at work, and their contact information is also included within the signature. So how is this deployed? First thing you need to do is make a copy of the doc with the script. So how app scripts work is they're usually bound. They're either standalone or they're bound to the various documents you're working on. So for example, in this sample file over here, if I go under Tools, under Script Editor, then what I'm able to access is actually now the app script editor. It's an online editor, it's an online editor whereby someone with some programming background is able to write some JavaScript, and that does all the magic for you. But no worries, today we'll actually run you through a fully functional solution, so we won't have to write any code. So as I said, the first step is to make a copy of the doc with the script. The reason making a copy is effective is because if I have the original, then any copies of the document made actually attach script automatically. So there's no need to copy paste or do anything else. After which I'll need to go to GCP, that is a Google Cloud platform, and enable, actually create a service account and also enable the various required APIs. And what we need to enable is the Gmail API and Admin SDK API. The Gmail API because we're interacting with Gmail settings, and the Admin SDK API because we are interacting with admin functionality. Next, we'll need to configure the script using the downloaded credentials and test that with a single user just to see if it works, and finalize by testing for the entire organization. So just some background before I mentioned OAuth as we were setting up the Google Drive add-on within Slack. So how all of this ties in is that OAuth is, as I said, an industry standard protocol for authorization and authentication. So OAuth 2.0 focuses on client developer simplicity while providing specific authorization flows for different types of applications. So different types of applications will actually have, or rather will actually utilize different OAuth flows. what you saw with the sign in with Google, and then there was the various permissions it was asking for, and then we proceeded to allow. That is called the three-legged OAuth approach, because that actually requires a user's intervention. But what we're going to be doing with our app script, we'll utilize the two-legged OAuth approach, whereby there's simply a client ID, and then there's the authorization servers. The reason for this is because the app script requires no user intervention. Hence, that type of flow is what is most necessary. And then once we create that service account, the service access each individual user's Gmail settings, and it'll also be utilized when accessing other Google Workspace APIs. We'll see that practically in a bit. So before moving on to this next slide, let's actually go do that. So I have a URL to my document that you're going to copy. As you can see, what we get first, let me zoom in a bit. What we get first is a notice that the file contains an attached app script file, and therefore that functionality will also be copied over. So I'll proceed to click on make a copy. So as you can see, there's a template, and it also includes a sample of, say, look like, and you can see it's designed within a doc. So over here, you can see that some new menus were automatically populated over here. This is courtesy of the script that's bound to this particular document. If I go to Tools, then go over to Script Editor, then this will open the attached script. But first things first, we need to head over to GCP. So I'll go to console.cloud.google.com. Then I will navigate. I'm already in my project. So if you don't have one, you'll need to create one. I won't run over that. My colleague Diana did a really good job of going through it in our previous sessions. Maybe you can contact us for a recap. So under I am an admin, I'll need to create my service account over here. And then I'll click on create service account, and then I'll need to provide a service account name. It's always good to provide a meaningful. So I'll call it Academy Signature Deployment. So automatically, an ID will be generated for that service account, and it's always a good idea to have a service account description. Zoom in a bit. For deploying signature solution. Then I'll continue. There's no need to grant it a role. I'll click on done. And once that has been created, you see there's no key over here. So how we are able to link to our created service account is by creating a JSON key. I'll proceed to do that under manage keys. And under add key, what I need to create is a JSON key. On creating it, you see there's a warning over here saying that the JSON file we've downloaded can only be accessed once. And therefore, you also need to store it securely because it actually allows access to your cloud resources. So it's over here. If we open that, then inside what you get are the various credentials so as to be able to connect with our service account. So what we need in here is actually our private key. I'll copy that, and on here inside our script configuration, I'll add that private key over here. And then I'll save that. As I said, we'll also need to enable the various APIs. That's under APIs and services. If I click on enable APIs and services and search for inside our API library, I can look for Gmail very quickly, Gmail API, And on my end, this is actually enabled. In the event it wasn't enabled, then there'd be a blue enable button over here. And enabling it would be as simple as clicking on that button. So we'll also check if our admin SDK API is actually active. And again, that is also active. And finally, we need to do something called domain-wide delegation. So just a moment. Go back to my slide. That is what our next slide was. So what is domain-wide delegation? Domain-wide delegation is a feature within the Google Workspace admin console that enables non-user accounts to actually be able to access various workspace resources. I'm calling them non-user accounts because you can see, for example, what we're doing with the script, it actually enables automated access to your resources rather than a user having to go in there and do so manually. So, and what we need to provide under domain-wide delegation is a client ID. So that usually uniquely identifies a given OAuth client. In this case, our OAuth client is that app script of ours that's bound to our service account. And then OAuth, as I said, works using scopes. So we'll also need to state the various scopes we require, like as you can see in our table. For example, this first client ID, or rather this first OAuth client only needs access to compose email and read-only access to Drive. So let's see that on this end. We'll do so by visiting admin.google.com to access our admin panel. Again, I'll need to verify my identity. Type in my password. And then within the Workspace admin console, I need to go under security, under access and data control, under API controls. So within this section, first you need to ensure that you are trusting internal domain-owned apps. So this is what lets them operate within your domain. And then under domain-wide delegation, which is what we're talking about, I need to add my client ID. So let's get that from our file over here. And my client ID is over here. So we only need the ID like that. And then we'll proceed to add the necessary OAuth scopes. These are supposed to be either comma separated, or you can actually add them line by line as follows. So from the structure of these various URLs, you can actually infer what those scopes are for. So you can see that all of them are pertaining to Gmail and the Gmail settings for the users. And I'll click on authorize. Now that I've authorized that, I have given permission to my service account to actually act on behalf of users or other admins within my domain. Next, I'll navigate back to my document over here, the one with the script, and then I'll configure the rest using these buttons up here. So under configure script, I need to add my client email. And before doing so, the script, in order for you to run the script, it requires authorization, similar to what was happening with what we were doing with the Slack add-on. So I'll press on continue. In doing so, I'm asked to choose an account. I'll pick my admin account. And as you can see over here, there's the various permissions that are being requested by the script. And all of these are actually based on those three OAuth scopes that we've just added in our service account. Under domain-wide delegation. I'll proceed to allow that. So I'll go back here, set that client email properly. I'll get it from my JSON file. Remember, every service account you create also is actually tied to a unique email address that's generated in the process. So I'll add that. I'll also need to add my client ID. need to be careful with that one. That is the domain for which you're setting the signature. So the reason for this is at times there can be multiple domains within Workspace. For example, you can have powerIT.co.ke, you can have cloudemail.africa, among others, and you can have each domain maybe even belonging to a different workspace, in as much as they're in one Google Workspace admin panel, or rather one Google Workspace tenancy. So with this, you're actually able to switch between domains and set different signatures per domain. And next, we simply need to run the solution. So we can either run this for the entire organization, or we can run it for a single user. So for now, we want to set it for a single user, just for testing purposes. So I'll go to set for user, and I'll provide my email address. And moment of truth, let's see if it actually runs. So I'll set for user. That says the script is running. And it tells me access not granted or expired. So let me see why. As you can see, I made a slight error with this email I was copying in. I added a quote over here. So I think that must be why there's a problem. I'll proceed to change that. And then I'll proceed to run that again for user. Fingers crossed. Yes, it says the script is finished. If I navigate back to my, refresh my browser and click on compose, then I should see my signature there. Just to confirm that it's actually working, we can proceed to more this. And actually set it for the entire domain this time around. So you can either do that by clicking on here for organization, like that. However, so right now what's happening is that the script is actually going through all of the users' accounts within the domain, but you see you can't really tell if that's actually happening. So I can opt to, so for now I've canceled its execution. If you want to run the script more interactively, you can go under tools and the script editor. And here I'll select the option to run for the entire domain. So if I click run from here, then what I get is this interactive panel that's actually telling me what the script is doing and how far we are with setting the signatures for the domain. So it's accessing each of the user's settings, going specifically for the signature and nothing else, courtesy of the OAuth scopes we set. So those provide some sort of restriction as to exactly what resources can be accessed by the solution. And you can see it has actually updated the email signature for all the users within the organization. So I'll go to my account, I'll close that, I'll refresh this again. And on clicking on compose, I have my new email signature.